Well, let me begin by thanking the leadership of E-Town Church of the Brethren for the opportunity to share with you this morning. And I thank all of you for taking time to zoom in to listen to what I'm going to share. And my wife and I are research fellows here at the Young Center for Anabaptist and Pietist Studies. And I'm doing a research on 16th century Anabaptist public theology for Nigerian Christian. But I'm not going to talk about public theology this morning. I'm going to talk or to share with you this morning an update on Nigerian crisis and the EYN Church's response, compassionate response to this crisis. I will first begin by an overview of ethnic, religious, and political structure of Nigeria, which may have contributed to the present crisis, and then a summary of Boko Haram crisis, and briefly also the Fulani headers and bandits kidnappers crisis. And then I will give an outline of some painful situation that people are going through, and the church's compassionate response and challenges with the EYN Church of the Brethren as an example. And then I want to emphasize that the Nigerian crisis is historical, ethnic, political, economic, and religious. Nigeria in West Africa, structured into 36 states, is the most populated country in Africa with an estimated population of 208,636 people. 65% of this population are under the age of 25 years. Due to poverty, poor health conditions, and perennial ethnic religious violence, life expectancy in Nigeria is 54.7 for men and 55.7 for women. Nigeria is sharply divided along ethnic and religious lines. 50% are said to be Muslim, 45% are Christians, and the remaining 5% are traditional religion. Nigeria are considered a very religious people. However, the picture of Nigeria today is characterized by violent conflicts like Boko Haram, Fulani Hiders attack, bandits, kidnapping, and killing and destruction of properties. And this raises question about the role of and the benefit of religion in Nigeria. These are the symbols of the three religions: Islam, traditional religion, and Christianity. Nigeria has two contradictory systems of government with contradictory constitutions. Federalism with a secular constitution pretending to use democracy to elect political leaders. Liberal Islamic state with Sharia law and Sharia courts at all state, local, and state, federal level, paralleling the secular federal system with a sultan and caliphate headquarters in Sokoto, who is the supreme political religious leader of the Nigerian Muslim. He has emirs in each state working like governors, often competing with state governors. This paradoxical political structure partly contributes to the emergence of different crises such as Boko Haram crisis and Fulani Hiders attack. Boko Haram represents a radical Salafi sect of Islam that believes it is the true, pure expression of Islam. Its goal is to return to what it says is an original political and moral practice of Islam as it was during the time of Prophet Muhammad. They are fighting to bring Muslims back to what they see as a purer form of Islam, and they promise paradise and forgiveness to those who die for Allah. They teach them that those who die in war are not dead, but are living in the presence of their Lord, rejoicing and enjoying bounty provided by Allah. Since its beginning in 2002, Boko Haram has killed over 100,000 people and is still killing and kidnapping people. Boko Haram has displaced over 3 million people from their homes and kidnapped thousands. You remember the Chibok jail, 2014, 276 of them were kidnapped. And on 2017, 82 were released and remain 111 are still in captivity. February 21, 2018, 110 Dapchi school girls were kidnapped but all were rescued except Leah Shaibu, who was the only Christian among them. She was detained because she refused to recount her faith. In March 24th, 2020, Boko Haram ambushed Nigerian soldiers and killed 50 as reported by Al Jazeera. In December 2nd, 2020, Boko Haram killed 76 farmers in a rice field near a village of Zambarmari in Borno State. In December, they captured a EYN pastor, and recently they give 2 weeks ultimatum to federal government to come to the rescue of this pastor, but we heard he has now been released. This is EYN pastor. Fulani Herders attack is a new crisis causing suffering to many Nigerians. Well, Boko Haram seems to be an endless crisis. The Fulani Herders crisis has emerged alongside it. The Fulani Herders crisis grew out of rural conflict between Herders and Fulanis. Now they are attacking people all over Nigeria, burning houses, destroying farms and farm produce. They are kidnapping for ransom travelers, villagers, people at wedding, funeral, and school children. They rape women and kill those who do not pay ransom. As reported by Christian Association of Nigeria in January 8, 2018, Fulani Herders killed 1,471 people in Benue State alone. Bandits, kidnappers are also now a nationwide crisis in addition to Fulani Herders and Boko Haram. The bandits and kidnappers are criminal gangs taking advantage of the political chaos all over West Africa. They are well organized, heavily armed, and deliberately kidnap people for money. They attack villages, burn houses, loot properties, and kill people. They have kidnapped a large number of people from public bus, children, school children, people attending weddings, funerals, and they demand huge sum of money that ordinary Nigeria do not have. On December 15, 2020, bandits kidnapped 344 Kankara school boys in Katsina State and demanded 344 million naira, which is about $765. On December 20th, 2020, they kidnapped 80 Islamia school children in the village of Mahuta. And you may have remember US citizen that was kidnapped in Niger and rescued in Nigeria on December 2020. On November 2020, 12 Nigerian police officers were kidnapped on their way to Zamfara to carry out a special assignment. On February 15, 2021, bandits kidnapped 21 passengers from a bus coming from a wedding. On February 25th, 2021, 317 schoolgirls were kidnapped from Zamfara, but now have been released. While kidnapping is nationwide, probably in Nigeria, kidnapping is political, economic, religious, psychological warfare made worse by ethnic anger, weak and corrupt government, and criminal impunity, as well as shortage of security personnel, the proliferation of weapons, and support from some radical Muslims outside Nigeria. Politically, some selfish and corrupt politicians employ jobless Nigerians in kidnapping as political tactic to intimidate their opponents or to punish communities that did not vote for them. Some employ jobless youth as political tax during and after election. Then such jobless ones turn to kidnapping as a way of survival. Economically, Fulani herders who lost their cattle turn to kidnapping as a means of surviving the hardship caused by poor economic conditions in Nigeria. Religiously, Boko Haram resorted to kidnapping as a way of financing their activities and to send a warning to Christian communities and Muslims who do not agree with their ideologies. Ethnically, Fulani herders feel that they have been neglected and targeted by the government. And to show their frustration with the government, they resort to attacking other ethnic groups. The COVID-19 pandemic has also worsened poverty and hardship for people, perhaps leading some to resort to kidnapping for survival. And as the population increases, competition for food and other materials is great, and this leads some people to engage in kidnapping as a means of survival. In 2014, 10 army generals and 5 military officers were arrested for allegedly giving information and supplying arms to Boko Haram. Boko Haram has distorted social, ethnic, and interfaith relations in Nigeria. They have infiltrated almost all sectors of the society, and they have informers, sympathizers, supporters among politicians, governments, security agents, business people, and across society. And they have broken social trust and relationship. They have put some women into forced marriage, and they have perpetuated sexual abuse of women and enslaved some young boys and used them as child soldiers. People now are living in fear and cannot go out to their farm field or travel freely to the market. The disaster effect of kidnapping traumatized raped victims, death, and collective family poverty. People living in fear, mistrust, and suspicious of each other. Victims of kidnapping suffer psychological stress, trauma, and nightmare, crippling the spirit of their resilience. Raped victims suffer unwanted pregnancy and sexual transmitted diseases like HIV/AIDS. Victims in captivity suffer inhuman maltreatment, beating, torture, and death. In some cases, even after ransom is paid. Victims' family and relatives get poorer as they must sell all they have to pay ransom. The payment of large ransom encourages more kidnapping. What is EYN's response? We say EYN compassionate response. Compassion is a strong feeling of sympathy, concern, and sadness for the suffering of others and desire to relieve such suffering. From biblical perspective, compassion is a form of love that arises when confronted by those who suffer, and it produces action to alleviate suffering. Compassion is also a feeling of the need to forgive those who cause suffering. We read in Psalm 78:38 that God showed compassion to people who angered him by forgiving their iniquity, and restrained his anger. In Matthew 9:36 and Luke 23:34, we read how Jesus demonstrated compassion by providing food to the hungry and asked God to forgive his enemies when he said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." Compassion is often shown by someone who is not directly affected. But if you are the victim, like the church in Nigeria, how do you show a compassion? Nigerian church, to be sincere, are still very obedient to the teaching of Christ and follow his steps in dealing with enemies. For EYN Church of the Brethren, which started in 2013 by two missionaries, Tova Kolb and Albert Hilsa, the church before Boko Haram had 56 district church council, 450 local church councils, 2,250 local church branches. The church had about 500 active pastors, 500 assistant pastors, and about 200 and 250 evangelists heading local church branches. Due to Boko Haram, the church lost 8,000 and displaced 700,000 people. 43 districts were closed, and 1,674 our local church and church branches were destroyed or closed. EYN Church today, the church has over 900,000 people today, both baptized and unbaptized, and we have over 1,000 pastors, 57 active district church council, about 285 local church branches, and about 1,145 local church branches. Each local church branch has about 150 to 500 members, while local church branches has 20 to 130 members. Since 2016, the church has been rebuilding itself, repairing damaged houses and church buildings. There are still thousands in temporary camps in Borno and Adamawa State, and there are still about 15,000 refugees in Cameroon, but they have established churches in Cameroon. The church is constantly in prayer, fasting, seeking God's mercy and intervention. The church is trying hard to avoid the temptation of retaliation and acting like the criminals who attack. The church continues to support those who are directly affected, especially the displaced. The church is distributing food to displaced victims, both Christian and Muslim, in places like Garkida, Lhasa, and elsewhere. The church continues to repair and rebuild the destroyed properties, houses, and churches. The church today is operating microfinance banking to help with income and loan to members who want to start small business and raise income to feed their family. Through community development program, the church has been raising seedling for tree planting. District and local church councils have been encouraged to do tree planting to prevent desert encouragement. And the church is active in evangelism, and the church is planting churches in Cameroon, Togo, Niger, Taraba, Nasarawa, and within Abuja City. EYN Peace Program organizes seminars on peace, trauma healing, and resilience, and works with secondary schools, both Christian and Muslim, and teaches church members to forgive and accept their Muslim neighbors. In 2016, EYN received a German Peace Award for its effort in peace building between Christian and Muslim in northern Nigeria. Our big Bible school, called Bible School, has been changed to called Bible College Seminary. The seminary is now affiliated with the University of Jos. It offers a higher degree in theology to Nigerian pastors. Other Bible colleges like John Gully in Michigan and Madu Bible College in Marama are also training pastors and evangelists. EYN secondary schools at Kwarki, Maiduguri, Yaula are providing needed education to children in their communities despite insecurity and poor economic conditions. EYN Disaster Ministry was created in 2015 to address the needs and massive problem caused by Boko Haram. Throughout 2020, the Disaster Ministry has distributed food and non-food items to 86,000 households. They have given scholarship to 501 students at all levels of education, and they have distributed 6,240 bags of fertilizer to farmers to help raise food to feed their family. They have repaired 500 houses of those returning to their communities. EYN leadership has been challenging the government at local, state, federal level to take more seriously their responsibility for protecting life and property. The leadership has centralized payment of pastors' salaries since some local churches are not able to pay their pastors. EYN is in partnership with our mission partners, the Church of the Brethren, as you know, and Mission 21, and are working together to help people survive the ongoing crisis. Now, the challenges facing the church today, the ongoing insecurity situation is still a challenge to the church. Some EYN areas like Chubak, Askra, Musa, Dile, Waga, Garkida, Madagali are still constantly under attack by Boko Haram. Boko Haram, Fulani hiders, and bandits kidnappers are restricted people movement, and the church lack funds to pay pastors' salaries since members cannot give as much money due to the economic crisis. The church has thousands of widows and orphans who have no means of getting food to feed their children or send them to school. Church is facing the challenge of how to meet the emotional, psychological, and physical need of those widows and orphans. And there is the question, how to rebuild the broken trust and relationship in society and among neighbors. So this is what I have to share this morning, and thank you for listening. We'll now wait for questions.
Excellent. It's a lot of information to digest, and there's a lot of topics there that I'm sure individuals have questions about. So as we have typically done, if you have any questions, you can feel free to enter those into the chat, or also please feel free to unmute yourself and ask those questions directly. Pam, I see you
Jason.
waving. Yes.
Good morning, Dr. Rebecca and Dr. Samuel. Good to see you. Sanu.
Thank you, Sanu.
Sanu, Mongode. Good to see you.
Yes, Ngode.
Yes.
We were very active in collecting funds for 2 tractors that we bought in Nigeria when we were there. Do you have any idea where what is the state of the tractors these days?
Well, you know, the one tractor is with Marcos in Garku.
Yes.
And he's still using it during farming season.
Good,
That at EYN, I heard they are still working with it, and it's also helping them in some small way to raise money because they farm on other people's farm and they pay for money. So I think the tractors are still working.
Good, good. That was so important so that they could grow enough food, not only to eat for themselves, but to sell so that they can send their children to school. So it was kind of a hope for the future. And it sounds like the tractors are still in running condition, which is great.
Yeah.
Yes. They are still running and they are really helping a lot of people to survive, to provide food and provide for their family. So we are really very grateful.
Good, thanks.
Other questions or comments?
Samuel, I'm just trying to clarify something. Did I understand you to say that Boko Haram represents a very traditional fundamentalist view of Islam, and there's also a much more liberal interpretation of Islam in the government across the country?
Well, the Boko Haram, as you say, Salafi, they're the fundamentalists who are interpreting the Quran literally, who are trying to push Islam back to the time of Prophet Muhammad. But what we have in Nigeria is the system of government that we have. We have a federal system which use democracy, and then we still have an Islamic system of government because we have a Sharia court at all levels, parallel to the secular constitution. And then we have an emir who looks like a president of all Muslims in Nigeria. And in each state, he has what we call emirs who act like governors, sometimes competing with the state governors. So it's a mixture of 2 systems of government.
I have another question, Samuel. You talked about the militia or the Boko Haram and the herders and the bandits being very well armed with guns. Do you have any idea where are these guns coming from? How do they get into their hands?
Well, I think the guns mostly they get them from Cameroon, from Niger, from Chad, and from Libya. And then there are some allegations that some unfaithful Nigerian military sell some guns to them. So they have a different way, and they have really sophisticated guns sometimes maybe they are more equipped than some Nigerian army.
I wanted to ask Brother Samuel. It seems clear from what I understand you have said, and from what I've understood in other places too, that an awful lot of what's happening has to do with not having young people not being able to get jobs, and so when they can't get work, that that they fall into what will earn them some income and some respect and self-respect, and they somehow get that in their heads that Boko Haram is a way to do that. That can be the mighty guy. And I know Rebecca's worked really hard at jobs training. Does the government understand the connection between the need to get jobs training in order to lessen the violence? Is the government working at that at all?
Government understood it and they see the need, but as I said, the Nigerian government split between ethnic group, between religious group. So whenever people are elected, they are mostly elected to represent this split of groups, and their interest is the interest of these groups. So they are not really interested in the whole of Nigeria, and that makes it for them very difficult to even control and even pay attention to the real issue facing the country.
I'm interested in the state of education in Nigeria with all the disruption in the schools. What is education like now? How has it deteriorated, or has it continued to be strong?
I think the education is deteriorating because especially in northeastern state, particularly Borno, most of schools have been destroyed. And so the government has to restart them. And there are a lot of some of those children still in the camp. They're not even in their home. They're not in the school. And even today, some schools are even afraid because the schools are still targeted for kidnapping. And so recently, Borno closed some of their, Kano closed some of their schools because of fear of kidnappers coming to kidnap, because these kidnappers are targeting schools so that they can get a large number of people, and then it attracts the attention of the government to give them millions of dollars. So the education is actually going backwards, because even those who are going to school, they are afraid of even staying in the school.
Maka, can you stop in Naka? Yes. Okay. So I want to comment on this education issue. The children, they are really backward. I remember when some went to Jos, including my brother's children. They were like they're supposed to be like in 12th grade, but even kindergarten, they cannot read the book of kindergarten because some have been out of school for 6 years, some more than that. So the education system is really backward, and children and parents, and we are really suffering because of that. No proper education. And the private schools, they are very, very expensive. The churches, as he said, they have a lot of schools, but some the church cannot employ some good teachers because of lack of money, because the parents doesn't have money. But then the church schools are really trying, especially Kwari and some of the schools he mentioned. But generally, the children are really suffering.
It would seem that kidnapping is a real issue and causes a lot of fear and concern. I'm curious, though, it sounds as if some of the motivation behind it is, I'm sure it's to create fear, but it sounds like it's very much tied to financial reasons, that it's largely a tool for collecting money. Is that true? How would you describe that? Sorry, Samuel, I think you're muted there. There we go.
Okay, for sure, a large part of it is economy, the lack of food poverty, and especially, as I said, the Fulani people, their main business is taking care of cows. And some of those cows, there's no more grazing land in Nigeria as before. And some of them, they have lost their cows and they have nothing to do. They are not educated. So the only way for them to survive is to get into this kind of kidnapping. First, they started and they get money. So it is now becoming a big business in Nigeria, especially when the government is involved in pumping money to them. Government will come in the media, will say, no, we did not give any ransom. But it's not true. They will never release you except you pay for money. When it becomes individual family, each family cannot pay the money. So the whole relative have to collect the money, and if they don't have it, they can sell their land, and this is what is happening. So it is creating more poverty.
There's a question, two questions in the chat. The first one is, what is the best way for us to help? So that could be us as individuals, as a congregation, as a country. Thoughts on that?
We often get this question, but as for Church of the Brethren, sometimes we feel reluctant to say this is what to do, because Church of the Brethren have done more than expected. Because if not because of Church of the Brethren, the story of EYN will be different today. And the church, since this crisis, has been coming in, supporting the church, helping the church, and the problem is too massive. So I can't say this is what you have, because the church is already helping in a different ways. And because the EYN Disaster Relief Fund, we have been hearing church are still going and supporting the program. So I think the church is already doing so. I don't think we need to ask church to do anything other than what they have been doing again.
The next question is, would you discuss the relationship, if there is any, between population pressure, limited resources, and climate change in the area and areas of north of Nigeria?
Oh, yes, large, because as I said, the population of Nigeria is mostly young people. They go to school, no job after school. And because of little bit of improvement of health condition, most of under 5 children are surviving. And so the population has hierarchy actually. And people to feed a population, the farms that have been fertile before because of constant use, too much pressure on the farm, is not fertile anymore. And the trees, the millions of Nigerians depend on firewood to cook. So they have cut almost all the trees in the country. They won't even allow a tree to grow even for a year before they cut it. So the country is almost like dry actually. And areas where you see water before, the whole area is now dry. And so there's a problem with the shortage of rainfall, shortage of drinking water, and the fertilizer. Without a fertilizer in Nigeria today, a farmer cannot get anything from his farm, and it is very expensive. And people have now get into using this herbicide, the chemical, indiscriminately without even knowing the danger of it. So they're poisoning the land, they're poisoning the water, and burning bushes. So is a mixture of many things. But you know, people are not worried about climate change because they have problem more than climate change.
Right.
The kidnapping and the Boko Haram have taken much of their attention.
Yeah, I have a question about Jeff Beauchard is working with groups in Africa about trying to transition to agriculture without chemicals and pesticides, which is much more economical. Has the church worked with him in trying to get farmers to transition from Western agriculture to more sustainable types? Have you all had a conversation at all? And if not, I would suggest that would be a good way, because people are dying from chemical use and fertilizers, pesticides.
Yeah, he is working with the EYN. I think they are working on soybeans planting, and I had the program that they are doing in Nigeria. But it will be interesting how you can stop using chemical in Nigeria for raising food to feed a large family like this, because without tree planting, with the desert is just fast approaching the land, people are struggling how to raise the food. And the easiest way to raise the food they can get is to use this chemical, because you know our traditional hoe, that's what we use. You spend all the hours just farming one small area. Now with the herbicide, you can spray the whole bush, and you don't have to work on it, and your crop will just raise up. People are already attracted to using this chemical.
Right, it's a transition. Working long-term sustainability, you need to start rebuilding the soil and all that, but you can't do it all at once. It's a long-term transition because you do need to stop the desert. But if you transition a hectare of land to sustainable, it will stay sustainable and it will help with the environment, climate change, plus also wean eventually the people off from having to use chemical fertilizers and plowing the soil, and you make it so you don't have to plow it. So it's a long-term, like maybe decades transition, but you do gradually over time, and you can grow grassland over time. And so it's something I think it'd be good to have continued conversations. But I hear what you're saying, Samuel, because it is, you need food now, and so you need to do what you can do right now. But long-term, there needs to be a transition in order to maintain that.
And I hope we get a good government, because Nigeria supply gas. If government in Nigeria can help people to get a gas for cooking and stop cutting firewood, that will have helped. But you know, the government prefer to keep people where they are so that nobody talk about what they're doing. These government officials are getting rich, and even taking some of those lands to expand it for their own farm. And that's why the government has taken over the land, the whole valley, the whole bush, and they have no place to go. And so government is not interested in pulling people out of these issues. If not, Nigeria is rich enough actually to manage the problem we are going through. But because of the ethnic, religious issue, political issue, attention to the people is not there.
A couple other questions here in the chat I wanted to make sure to address. Combine these two. What do you see as a solution in dealing with Boko Haram? Can their power be diminished? And along with that is, do weapons have no legitimate role in defending against attacks?
Well, you know, dealing with Boko Haram is very complicated, because as what I said, they have already infiltrated the system of society. They still have supporters within each section of the society in Nigeria. Even sometimes when the government or military plan to attack them, before the military goes there, they have already been given information. Now, the danger of it now, some ethnic groups are arming themselves, forming their own security, and buying guns. And that will be dangerous for Nigeria because since government is not doing anything, each major ethnic groups are grouping themselves to form their own armed bandits in order to defend themselves. Well, this is what is happening in Nigeria today. And so we are really in a complicated, difficult situation. And we hoped initially the international community will have seen this problem and preserve Nigerian democracy by coming in, because I know Britain or US are giving help to Nigeria, either militarily or whatever, but I don't know what is going on that this small group of Boko Haram in the small bush cannot be eliminated completely and keep spreading over and over again. So our hope has been the international community, if they can assist Nigeria, but the problem is, will Nigeria accept the help from the outside?
Another comment here from Sharon and John David Bowman is that our Nigerian sisters and brothers and all harmed by Boko Haram are held in our hearts, and we often hold them in our prayers. We will continue to support in specific ways as well. So just a message of encouragement.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And a question, another question here is, are things different for the EYN refugees in Cameroon? Is the government there more helpful, or do they have the same problems there too?
Okay, let my wife answer because she went to Cameroon sometime.
Oh. Are you hearing me?
I am, but I think it's through, now I'm not. Go, you need to unmute. Oh, there we go. Let's try to, still can't quite hear you. There we go.
You are hearing me now?
Yes.
Okay, I have been to Cameroon.
Yeah, I think it's muted. Yeah.
Mine.
Yeah, no, you're good.
So I have been to Cameroon several times. Their condition is very, very critical. Although the government there in Cameroon, they're helping them, but not much. So they are really struggling. And when I was in Nigeria, we're working with the UNHCR. We try to bring them back, and some they are still there, but they are on the process of coming back. And those who come back, the UNHCR give them some help to resettle back to Nigeria, which is better. But especially for the Gwaza people, they cannot go there and live there because most of the Boko Haram are still occupying their area. So their condition is still very, very difficult. Just last week, someone WhatsApped me from Cameroon, and they still lack food and some initial things. SEPI have been going there and supporting them, but you know, our support sometimes is like a drop of water in a problem of sea. So people prefer to come back home, go into their farm, and doing what they like to do. But with the Boko Haram, even those who return home, it's very, very difficult to go back to the farm because they attack them always. So it's still very, very difficult.
There is a question here in the chat, or it's sent to me directly. It says, Do neighboring countries face similar problems, or is this unique to Nigeria? Does Boko Haram have a foothold in other neighboring countries? Are some of the issues that we see in Nigeria shared by some of the other neighboring countries?
Well, some, why is it equally?
Oh, there we go. I fixed it.
Yes, initially when Boko Haram started, Cameroon had a problem with them, Chad had a problem with them, Niger had a problem with them, but this country had a better government strongly, and the Chad, especially the Chad military, even came to Nigeria and killed a lot of them when they attacked their people. And Cameroon is very difficult for them because the Cameroon army, they don't have this kind of a corruption or political divide and ethnic divide like what we have in Nigeria. So they are mostly focused on Nigeria. But from time to time, they will go to the border of Cameroon and Nigeria and attack people and then run back to Nigeria again. Or sometimes they go to the Chad just close to the border of Nigeria, but they don't have strong power in those areas than like what is in Nigeria.
Is there currently a famine in Nigeria? I guess that depends on how you define.
Exactly, because but actually presently, until you go and see people, then when you understand there is a starvation in Nigeria. My wife is working with some group in some of the rural area close to our area in the Mubi area. We got recently a picture of children suffering from severe malnutrition because people don't have food to eat. And with the shortage of rainfall, with the fear of going to farm, because farm now, to farm in Nigeria, you have to go outside your house far, far away. And people are afraid of going there. And as I showed the picture, about 76 people were killed on a rice farm. So people are afraid of going to farm. So the little one around their house will not be enough to feed them. So people are really starving. And if you talk about farming, I think we can actually say, yes, there's farming in Nigeria. It depends on where you go in Nigeria. If you go to Abuja, where you find the politicians, is like a heaven. But if you go outside that, you will see Nigerians suffering.
Are there large cultural divides between more urban areas like Abuja and the rural areas of Nigeria? Are there a lot of differences that exist between culturally, or that exist between, more populated areas and more rural areas?
Well, if you go there, you can see the division, but the division happens especially in school, in government, and in employment, because before you get employment, it depends on who you are. They will ask you which tribe, which religion. So it depends on, and if you're even going to university for students, it depends on whether you are Muslim or Christian, if you are in the north or if you are in the south. So the division is, people from outside sometimes find it difficult to see the ethnic segregation within Nigeria, but Nigerians understand we are sharply religiously and ethnically divided.
Another question that has come into the chat is about your level of confidence in your ability to travel back to Nigeria. Would you feel safe?
Well, the question of safety for Nigeria, I think I can't answer yes, we are safe. No, but we have to do it. We have to go, because if you listen to Nigerian stories and see what is happening, you can lock yourself in the room forever. But we can't do that. So like any other Nigerian, because in Nigeria, we have a phrase that each day is a blessing. If you go out of your house and come back, thank God. If you go through night, the next money, thank God. So we have only one day at a time or a second at a time of our life. So we are not thinking about like US here, young people 25 years, they will say, oh, I have enough time. I don't have to decide on what to do this now because I have future. Nigerians have no future. Most of people today are thinking about heaven, going to heaven. Because that's why their life is, because tomorrow they're dead. But we have our parents there. We have some of our children are there. We have about 4, 5 grandchildren or 4 grandchildren there now. My daughter is going to have a baby by June. So we are also planning to go, and we have to. And if we don't come, thank God. If we come, thank God. That's it.
Thank God. How has COVID affected all of this? What has the impact of COVID-19 been in Nigeria?
Yes, COVID-19. Are you hearing me?
Yes. Yep.
COVID-19. You are hearing?
Yes. Yep. We can hear you.
You know, in Nigeria, some they do not believe in there is COVID. So, and some they believe in it, but they said it's a sickness of rich people, those who can travel, and those who contacted is just maybe they have contact with rich people. But it's entered the town and then the villages. Some they segregate against this COVID. Even when my daughter and their family were unfortunately contacted, affected with this COVID, they said, "Mommy, you better keep quiet, because if people know, they will never eat our food, or they will not visit us again, or they will not buy our things, because they will think that this disease will catch them." And some in the villages, they are dying, but they say that is a secret sickness that come to them. And the COVID, it has worsened the situation. We in SEPI, we have we distributed handset for them to be reporting and tracking, but it was very, very difficult because people are hiding it. And the lockdown made people to really suffer. During that time, they will no longer, they did not go to their farm or do any business. So that was why NSAS came, because a lot of youth went and they broke to government stores who hoarded a lot of things without distributing them. So COVID has worsened the situation. It made people poorer, and a lot of people are dying. And so it's very, very difficult. And going to Nigeria, we have to go. If not, we cannot stay here forever. But maybe we will be going and then coming back.
One final question here in the chat is, it says, I'm interested in the work the organizations you work with are doing with Muslim victims together with Christian victims. Are you seeing any ongoing positive developments in the relationships with Muslim neighbors because of these efforts?
Yeah, you know, yes, there are some positive way in other ways, but you know, Muslims who, especially those who converting from Islam to Christianity, or those who try to appreciate what Christianity is doing, are sometimes attacked by their family or by the community. So sometimes it's hidden. We have a lot of, some of our pastors are from Islamic background who came to Christianity on their own, and they were trained and they were ordained as a pastors. We have a Fulani, about maybe 2 Fulani now who are pastors in EYN, and we have a Kanuri where Boko Haram started, even though he has been hunted by his brothers, they wanted to kill him, but he's also a pastor and now living in Jos, working with rehabilitation of those converted from Islam to Christianity. And so I think there is an effect on it, because my wife can tell you more because she worked directly with, especially with those women and Muslim women in different areas in Nigeria.
Yes. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
There are a lot of impact. In our own organization, we never preach to them about gospel and all this because it's against humanitarian principles. But more than 100 came to me, Muslims came to me, and they said they are now Christians because of what we have been doing to them, because we build houses to them, we support them with foodstuffs and a lot of things. So they said the Muslims, they are Muslims, they did not help them like we did. So they are now going to church, even though they are being persecuted, but they saw it because our action, we preach the gospel to them through what we do. So there are a lot of impact, and a lot of people turning to Christianity because of what we are doing.
All right. Well, there's a lot more to talk about, and fortunately, Rebecca, you'll be joining us next week to share. So we'll have the ability to answer more questions about that. I wanted to thank you all for joining us this morning. I wanted to give a special welcome to our friends across the pond, the Greens. You know, we're silly here in the US, and every 2 years we decide to just move our clocks arbitrarily. So I apologize. We will, this of course, this session's recorded, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Are you finished? I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. When I saw you come in, I was like, oh, we changed our clocks back, and they probably think that's ridiculous, and it is.
Sorry about that. We'll catch up on the video. Thank you.
We do the same thing, but not on the same date.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll see you in the live stream, but see you all next week.
Okay, thank you. Oh.